There we go. Hey guys, it's Aggie K, Wealth Therapist, coming at you live this Monday, this Mindset Monday. And today I'm talking about chasing the infinite and answering a listener question. And someone who is on my email list who asked a great question. So the question is, how do I have a Joe job that I need to support me financially, and I'm not making enough money yet in the business that I want to be in. Thank you, Dawn. I'm not making enough money in the business that I'm in on a consistent basis, so I have to have a Joe job to keep me to support me financially. My goal is to make enough money in the industry that I want to not need one. I don't know how to make this leap because some of it feels out of my control. So a lot of you can probably relate to that feeling of some of it feels like it's out of my control. I don't make enough money yet in this new venture, in this new space that I'm in. So I need my Joe job to hang on to that. And I think the last sentence of that listener's question, which is, it feels like it's out of my control, is a big indication to us for what is going on with the mindset, right? Because if it feels out of our control, then that's what's gonna happen, right? And it kind of leads into why I titled this Chasing the Infinite, because if we're sitting around waiting for it to happen to us, for the money to come in, for the clients to come in, for that job to start making us the money that we want to make, then it is out of our control. Then we are saying, I believe that I am a victim of circumstance. Even if I'm not a victim, even if I'm not totally buying into that, I'm still saying with my beliefs that I don't believe that I'm in charge here. I don't believe that I'm in control of this. I still believe that something's gonna come along and happen to me. And that's why I'm calling it chasing the infinite, because you can't chase the infinite. You can't ride the infinite wave if your mentality is finite, which, this listener is in that space of feeling finite in their beliefs. Like, I'm stuck in this Joe job. When's it going to happen for me? And that creates exactly what the infinite is going to bring you. It's going to create frustration and stuckness, and where I'm, being where you're at, waiting for something to come along and change it. And that's staying at the same consciousness that you're at. What would be a shift in consciousness to start being part of the infinite and stop chasing it would be to decide it's going to happen, to take control of those thoughts. Good morning. To start taking control of those thoughts that are creating those feelings. So you have a couple different ways you could do this. You could align with the situation as it is. So stop fighting it, right? Stop fighting your mind, stop fighting your feelings, stop fighting your thoughts. And get into alignment with what is right now and stop fighting it. Because the fighting is like saying, first of all, it takes up your mental space, and your mental bandwidth, which closes you off from opportunity, which closes you off from divine ideas, which closes you off from new possibilities coming in of how you could change it, right? So that's number one. If your mental space is getting taken up with, the Joe job or the not making enough money or whatever it is, then you're closing off. Your brain is where the ideas come in, right? Your mental space is where the ideas come in that could be solutions, that could be answers, that could be, magical ideas. So you need to keep that space clean. And if you've walked through life as an actual victim, and many of us have been victims of circumstance, many of us have walked through life with anger and anxiety and depression and shame, then that is a comfortable place for us to be, even if it doesn't feel good. It's just safe. Even if it doesn't feel good, it's safe. And so we continue to walk that line, but we have to shift the consciousness and kind of like, take control of those thoughts if we want them to shift our reality. So you want to start asking, where am I thinking finite? Where am I thinking finite? Right? For you to step into the infinite, you have to acknowledge, hey, Tracy, you have to acknowledge where you are thinking finite, where you are believing finite. It's the same thing with like, why can't I have the money now? Why can't I have the opportunity now? Why isn't it happening right now? Why do I have to wait? Well, because you're tied to a belief that says it has to take this long. It doesn't happen overnight. Success doesn't happen overnight. It takes time to build things. And sure, it does, but you can also manifest in the moment. Like, both can be true. It depends how committed you are to that belief. If you're open to it happening right now, if you spend every day thinking, I can have it now, I can have the opportunity right now, the money can come in right now, the clients come in right now, then you effectively brainwash yourself to have that, right? But that takes, and I'm not talking about one day and like 5 minutes. I'm talking about that, like, you're an observer of your thoughts and you are shifting them. And when a negative thought comes up, like you're going to your Joe job or you're trying to make your money and you're feeling stuck, then you take control of that thought in that moment and you start shifting it. And, you do this until that's the habit, until you are in infinite thinking and not in finite thinking. Where we get stuck is finite thinking. I'm stuck here. I'm stuck at this income level. I'm stuck at this job. I'm stuck in this relationship. And then you're effectively saying something else has control over my life. And until you make that, like, we're designed for evolution. So until you make that shift in consciousness, you're going to keep seeing that result. The infinite is sitting there waiting and saying, I'm waiting for your infinite thoughts. Okay, you want to keep thinking finite thoughts? I'll keep giving you that. I'll give you whatever you want. I'll give you whatever you want. But if what you're thinking is finite, then you're going to keep getting more of that, right? So your job is to start thinking infinite. And that's a scary place to be when you haven't been there a lot. Like, let's say for this person we're talking about, whose question I'm answering, that they decided to leave their Joe job and take a risk and like go couch surf for a few months and see if she could make it in her desired industry. A lot of the times you have to create a vacuum to be filled. Like, if all your time and all your bandwidth and all your energy and all your thinking and all your beliefs are tied up in this thing that annoys you and drives you crazy and doesn't feel good, then it's hard for anything else to come in and fill that. But like, close a door so something else can open. I was talking to a client of mine this morning, a celebrity shaman, and she's not loving her group. She's not feeling it. And so I was like, well, close it maybe. If it doesn't feel good, then just close it, pause it, leave it alone for a while and go do something else and allow another door to open. Right? So we have to sometimes be pushed into that. Right? Sometimes life will push us into that opportunity. Hey, Alex. Sometimes life will push us into that opportunity. It will force that opportunity on us by making us lose something and create a natural vacuum to start filling again if we're gripping too tight. A great example is this new house that I moved into that I fought the entire time. I was like, we're not ready. It's too much money. The mortgage payments are going to be too high. Blah, 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 blah. It's too risky. Like, I fought it the whole time. And guess what? Like, 2,500 square feet later, I'm feeling very wealthy that I did this. And of course, all the money worked out. All the money worked out. Everything worked out. And I fought it for 6 months. And I caused myself a lot of grief because I was in really finite thinking. I wasn't thinking, oh, new house means that must mean more money is coming in. And that's what I needed to get into, that like, oh my gosh, like this is happening. That means I have to step up my thoughts, but I wasn't ready. It took me some time to do that. So that's what I want you to think about. Where am Where am I thinking finite? Where am I thinking that I'm not in control of my life? Because you 100% are. And if you don't feel like you're 100% in control of your life, that's an important question to ask. Why am I not 100% in control of my life? Why can't I change that today? It doesn't mean it's easy, and it doesn't mean it's, a magic wand overnight thing, but asserting to yourself that you do have control over your life is really an important piece of that, right? And sometimes we need that like big risky thing to step into to realize it's okay. Like it's going to be okay, and everything works out fine. But we have evidence that it didn't, or we have evidence that it never does. And so we have to choose what we're going to put our stock in, right? Because just remember, the infinite is going to keep giving you what you want. So if you're thinking finite thoughts, that's exactly what the infinite's going to give you. Right? If you're fighting your own mind, you're going to get more fighting your own mind. So stop fighting. Stop fighting will help you get into more flow, right? Fighting yourself is, again, one of those things that takes up a lot of bandwidth, a lot of energy. Fighting your thoughts, wrestling with your thoughts, wrestling with your feelings. That struggle takes up a lot of energy. And you have to be still enough. You have to be like a vessel enough to get the ideas, to get the inspiration, to make the choices that are going to move you forward and that are going to bring in more money and ideas and inspiration and people and all of that stuff, good stuff that you want. So that is answering the question of my listener about how to get out of the Joe job when there's all this other feelings, is align with the thoughts that you have. Like, stop fighting what's going on. Like, admit it, let it happen. Because part of it is like just the addiction to the drama of it, to the victimhood of it. Because it's just normal and comfortable. It's like it's like walking the same way, each day, or driving the same path every day. So one is stop fighting it, because you're not probably feeling it if you really felt it to the depth that you're experiencing it, you would do something about it, because you wouldn't want to treat yourself that way, right? So that's like the interconnectedness of the self-esteem stuff, is if you really felt like, why am I putting myself through this? Because I really love myself. I don't want to do this to myself. Then you'd stop doing it. You'd stop doing it. But you have to love yourself enough to do that and be like, I don't deserve this. I don't deserve to live in this struggle. I don't deserve to live in this suffering place. I'm choosing that, but we have to admit that part, right? Tracy, we have to admit that part that like, hey, I'm choosing this. I choose everything here. And once I take responsibility for that, it sucks, because it's like, choosing a lot of stuff I don't really want. But then you're in a place of change. And I was listening to Michael Bernard Beckwith this morning, and he was talking about how anything we observe changes. Anything we observe changes. On a subatomic level, it starts to change. So part of your job is just to observe it. And I think that's the hard part, is not getting wrapped up in the story, not getting wrapped up in what it means, and just allowing yourself to observe what you're feeling and what you're thinking. And sometimes we need someone else to help us, pull ourselves away from the lens, because we're too attached. But that observation starts to change things right there and then. So there's a lot of power in the moment. There's a lot of power in right now, in choosing to be like, yeah, I'm at this Joe job and it feels crappy, and I'm just going to be in that, and I'm just going to notice that, and I'm not going to, invest in that. I'm just going to notice and observe it. So that's my thoughts on what to do there. And, and there can be definite stories around that pattern that are comfortable for you, and that are just a habit. Hey, Deepa. Yes, I'm live. There are just thoughts around that are habit, that is just a matter of changing the habit. But changing a habit of thinking, when we're talking about 50 to 70,000 thoughts a day, you got to be pretty darn vigilant about what you're thinking for that to change, and we're talking about 60% at least changing the thoughts over probably like a 21-day period would create some really good results. But most people can't do it for that long. And I know there's things I've been stuck with that, like my house for 6 months that I didn't. And so what happened? It took us a really long time to sell our house. It took us a really long time to get our, things had to keep getting fixed. It took us a really long time to get like the perfect mortgage. Everything was held up partially, I believe, because I wasn't ready, right? Because I was afraid to step into this like bigger reality. It was too risky for me. It felt inconvenient. Everything was so easy for me at the old place. And I was like, ooh, why do I want to do that to myself? That sounds really hard. And what ended up happening is my income increased, new clients came in, and I felt wealthy. Like I was in a big house that I loved, that was spacious and roomy and made me feel very luxe. And so it helped everything, and it shifted a lot of things, and everything fell into place. But I fought it for like 6 months with my thinking. I also make it hard on myself sometimes, but that's just an example to show you guys, sometimes taking that big scary leap is exactly what needs to happen. And then everything gets sorted. You just got to keep the faith while that's happening, right? So chasing the infinite is about thinking infinitely, about feeling infinite, about being in an infinite consciousness. As opposed to waiting for the infinite to come scoop you up and take you on a ride. You have to be willing to let go of finite consciousness. So take a look at where you are thinking finite, where you're feeling finite, and bring some expansion into that. Okay, that's my wish for you guys this week. Have an amazing week. Lots of love to you. Mwah. Aggie K, Wealth Therapist. Comment below if you have questions, thoughts. Where are you feeling finite? Where are you feeling infinite? Where do you need more infinite energy? Post that in the thread, and let's support each other's infinite consciousness. Mwah. Bye, guys.